Okay,
down.
36.
Came home at night and I thought, well, I'll just mow. And the grass just came up. The grubs cut the whole.
Good afternoon. It's 5:36, Thursday, May 26, 2022. I'm calling the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Could you stand for the invocation, please, Mr. Joe Hood? Will you give our invocation?
Yes, ma'am. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather here together and do the work of the city. Pray that you would guide us and direct us in the decisions that we make. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Okay, moving on to item number 3. We're going to hear remarks from visitors, nothing pertaining to the items on the agenda. If we have any visitors that would like to speak, this would be the time to come forward. Okay, no one coming forward. We're going to move on to 4, adoption of the minutes. Discuss and approve the minutes from April 28th, 2022. Do I have any discussion or?
I motion to approve the minutes of last month's meetings of, was it April?
Okay,
Yes, ma'am?
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay, and that carries. Okay, if there are no objections, we will move to 7.1 on our agenda. No objections. Okay, moving on to 7.1. That is PD 22-01. We're going to discuss and consider a planned development research and technology park and highway corridor base zoning on 724 acres of land, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located north of Interstate 20, west of Spur 557, south of Highway 80. The property is currently in the City of Terrell ETJ. This property will be developed into a business park and a highway commercial use with a variety of uses. Mr. Finner has a little staff report for us, and as y'all remember, last month we heard some of this and we tabled it. So Mr. Finner is going to catch us up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. I'm just going to let you know where we are on this project here. We did have a public hearing at the last meeting, and as you know, the meeting in April, there was a presentation made for this applicant for this development, and then we brought forth the public hearing and excuse me, I was 1 month off. The public hearing was April, the meeting before we actually had a presentation. So it was the 724 acres there located off Los Lomas and the Highway 80. The development is going to be planned development, highway corridor is a front portion, and then planned development business park in the back. We talked a lot about, and what was in your staff reports, if the planned development zoning was approved, then the next steps would be the negotiation of the developer's agreement, the TERS agreement, the MUD interlocal agreement, the annexation ordinance, submittal of a plat, and phase of construction for the infrastructure, and then a final plat, and then developer lots to be sold in a final plat. So there's a lot to do there. There's a lot that we've been working on. And we made a point, we went over the ordinance last time, the differences between the PD ordinances and what was actually in the highway corridor ordinance and what was in the actual business park ordinance. And we had continued there that there were some things that had to be done. We knew through the developer's agreement and things like that, and the TERS agreement. We did recommend, the staff had recommended approval in the staff report prior to that, and same staff report you have here, that the approval of the concept of the PD highway corridor and the PD business park be approved. So one of the major questions, and that we had on this was the traffic impact analysis. It was talked a lot about last time. I think some of you and some that may have understood at the time that it may have been completed, and it wasn't completed at the time. And so the one thing that we wanted to do mainly is to address that is approved and, has been completed and it's been approved by our city engineer. And so we want to make sure that we have the engineer here to give you a little summary of what that is all about. And so I think on this topic, you may have a couple people just speak in a remark to this, since it's not a public hearing now. So they'll just, you should have some sheets and they can speak on that, okay?
Do we want to hear from Mr. Lucas right now on the traffic study?
Yes, ma'am. You'll, you probably have a couple people that would fill out sheets that they'll just speak to this topic alone, so. Okay, so. Mr. Lucas is here, so.
So we're just gonna cover TIA first.
So we just need the TIA. That was one of the major questions asked, and so you have 3 minutes to go through everything, Mr. Lucas?
Okay,
Can you do that?
that's a lot to go, but we'll speed through it. So, good evening, commissioners. I've got some hard copies. I think Omira has it on the screen too, but I got some hard copies, because I know if I was in your seat, I would like a hard copy. And I've got some more for the crowd.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Well, I'll just jump right in. So I'd like to start we're going to start with full build out. I'll talk a little bit about the cross sections for some of the internal roads. And then I will go through kind of phase by phase what the improvements are. So first page is just full build out. And so I really just want to highlight the phases kind of all at once here. So we've got 3 phases of research and technology. So that's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 4. Those are all in the gray color. Phase 3 and phase 5 are the commercial and retail, one, of course, on Spur 557 and the one on I-20, but at our major interchange, connections to those major interchanges. Take a deep breath here. I ran inside. So I just say, broadly speaking, based on the TIA presented, the proposed Eastland Park development can be successfully incorporated into the surrounding roadway network with the proposed improvements that are included both on these diagrams, but also addressed more fully in the traffic impact analysis. One fact I think is important is that the gray areas, the research and technology uses that we analyze represent an area of land that's really large, but compared to retail and commercial is relatively little vehicle traffic. And then finally, just on this first page, I want to highlight 3 things. There's 2 new bridges that are shown here. One is at the interchange of Los Alamos Parkway with 557, and one is at I-20. These are major connection points to major TxDOT roads that will successfully enhance the ability to get traffic in and out of this development. The Spur 557 bridge will be built with prior to phase 3 of the Eastland Park development, and the frontage roads and interchange will be constructed by TxDOT at some point in the future, and that some point in the future is tied to the phase 5 and pretty much anything along I-20 because development doesn't occur when you don't have good traffic in and out. I think that makes complete sense. And the third thing is, third and final thing on this page that I wanted to point out is we do not intend to make an improved connection along Sage Hill Parkway to I-20 for 2 reasons. One, there's existing heavy traffic delays there today. And 2, if we send traffic there, that just gets worse. So we want to use the Spur 557 and Los Alamos Parkway interchange to send our traffic out and bring our traffic in and avoid making I-20 and FM 148 interchange any worse than it is. Okay, next page is typical sections for Los Alamos Parkway and for Sage Hill Parkway. The ultimate sections for both of these roads are very similar. One's 130-foot right-of-way, the other's 120-foot right-of-way. Both ultimate sections are 6 lanes in 6 lanes total. I do want to note that on both sections, we are proposing landscape buffers within our property. So we have a 25-foot landscape buffer on both sides within our property of Los Alamos Parkway. Would also note that Los Alamos Parkway is intended to be built to TxDOT standards, because at some point this will be, at least in the long-range planning for Terrell, this will be a connection from 205 down to I-20, and TxDOT hopefully will take over responsibility for the road at some point. Flipping to Sage Hill Parkway. I should note on Los Alamos Parkway, it had an interim section. The interim section is at the bottom. We intend to, or we plan to build 4 lanes of the ultimate 6, with our development, with the other 2 being constructed at some later date when those are needed. So moving on to Sage Hill Parkway. The ultimate section is a 6-lane section. The left-hand side of those shows a 30-foot landscape buffer that we are planning, which is outlined in the PD. And that would be a double row of trees spaced on 40-foot, and then they would be offset. So you'd have a tree every 20 feet. So gives you a real good green feel and screen there along the our side of the property. In the interim, we're going to build half the roadway that's closest to us, the three lanes. So that'll be 1 lane in each direction with a center turn lane. And then, so I'll quickly just run through the phases. So as we go through, the roads in blue are the ones that are being constructed for these phases. So they would be constructed before the phase is being developed. And we're currently under design for phase 1. So phase 1 is the 4 lanes from Spur 557 of Los Alamos Parkway, the Spur 557, all the way down to the southern limits of phase 1. We have a smaller collector road that I think is a 40 or 45-foot wide road, kind of still working through what that section is with the city, that will provide access along the southern phase, southern part of the phase. And one of the primary purposes of us building this in phase 1 is that we have a small connection to Champion Drive. Champion Drive is we'll say kind of where the frontage road will be for I-20. It serves a few businesses, and that will not be for public use. It is solely for emergency vehicles to have a second point of access into the property. So all of our phase 1 traffic will be using Los Alamos Parkway. And this also shows us building, on the bottom left is the 3 lanes closest to our property for Sage Hill Parkway, basically from the eastern edge or the bottom edge of our property up to Los Alamos Parkway.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If there are any questions, we can ask later, maybe after executive.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you very much for
You're
your
welcome.
presentation.
Thank you.
And I have one more person that would like to speak. If you would like to come to the microphone and take about 3 minutes. If you'll just state your name.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Ron Datinsky, 4719 Cole Avenue in Dallas. Glad to have the opportunity to speak tonight. I marked the form that I was opposed, but I will tell you that I'm not opposed to the development per se. I'm opposed to some of the details of the development. And from my experience, that can either make it a great development or maybe a not so great development. The reason I'm here is I watched the video last month of the P&Z meeting where this item was presented, and there were some comments made about the unsurety of whether there's going to be a convention center hotel and convention center on the Crossroads property, which is immediately across the proposed Sage Hill Parkway from this development. I'm here to tell you, I've been working for a year with the city. There is going to be a hotel. There is going to be a convention center, and it becomes, I'll say, my neighbor right across the road. So I am seriously concerned about some of the details that I read in the development proposal. What is being proposed is vastly different than the original proposed uses on the overall development, some of which I think the details, when you get into things like dock doors facing roads, where you get into parapet walls covering rooftop equipment, those are going to be immediately across the proposed Sage Hill Parkway from a $30 million convention center hotel and convention center for the city of Terrell. I think everybody here wants it to be a star piece of the city of Terrell, and we intend to do that, but we're concerned with some of the details that I think can be fixed within the overall PD that is being proposed. I know this is, as Charles mentioned earlier, this is a complicated piece. It's not just the zoning, it's the bringing it into the city, the TERS. I know there's a lot of moving parts, and I'm not gonna get into the details of it because I think you all have studied it well, but I think all of those things need to be addressed, particularly some of the details of the zoning as it would affect what is going to be, I think, a key piece of the city's development immediately across Sage Hill Parkway. So I'm not going to get into the details here because I think, you know, we can either it can move on to the council, or you can, I'll be more than happy at some point to go through it, but I think the context of what is across the street from this development needs to be taken into account when the zoning is prepared, particularly traffic up and down Sage Hill, the proposed Sage Hill Parkway, and how it affects the crossroads and the hotel and the convention center that is immediately across the street. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to address them, but I really didn't want to take a lot of time and dig into the details because there's a lot of moving parts in this.
I think we're just going to stay to our 3 minutes, and we appreciate your presentation.
Okay.
And we will be talking to you further at another time, I'm sure.
All righty.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much. I appreciate it.
Okay, now at this time, we're going to move to number 5 on our agenda and adjourn into an executive session in accordance with the Section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following: Section 551.067, deliberations regarding the economic development negotiations with this project. Calling the meeting back into order. Do I have a motion from our executive session?
I have a motion. I move to recommend to the city council that, that those portions of PD -22-01 currently situated within the city limits remain in agriculture zoning until such time as the city council has considered and approved PD 22-01 following further negotiations and approval of a development agreement for the voluntary annexation of the remaining portions of PD 22-01 that are currently situated within the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction, EJT.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay, and the motion carries. If there are no objections, we will move on to item 8.1. Okay. 8.1, we're going to discuss with the Planning and Zoning Commission a major proposed zoning of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas.
Yes, Mayor, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We do have a presentation for you on the North Spur development. We did discuss a little bit of what was coming on several projects, and like what we would like to do is have them before you before we bring forth the actual zoning applications and so forth. So we give them the opportunity to come up and make a presentation. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Angela Hunt or whoever's going to be coming up. What's that? Both of us. Oh, both of them, okay. And it's Dustin, right? Dustin and Angela. So come on up.
All right. Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Dustin Davidson. I work for Hines. I'm a managing director. Hines is very excited to be developing in Terrell. For those of you who don't know about Hines, we're a privately held international real estate development firm. We're represented in around 50 countries worldwide. We're headquartered in Houston. We were founded in Houston in 1957. We're still family-owned. We're on our third generation of the Hines family running the company, and we plan to remain family-owned. We're the largest private developer in the world, and we've been active in the DFW area for decades. We did the Galleria. We've done a bunch of office buildings, and for the last about 15 to 20 years, we've been doing quite a bit of single-family development. So in DFW, Hines has built over 10,000 lots of single-family development with many more in the pipeline across over 20 projects. We really focus on high-quality development, amenity-led development, and what we pride ourselves on is we bring in high-quality home builders. And we're very excited to bring that program to Terrell. North Spur is an opportunity. Hines purchased this property almost exactly a year ago. We've been working with city staff for over a year on this process. It's going to be a Class A development. We've got multiple uses in here. We've got over 1,500 single-family lots, approximately 35 acres of retail commercial development, and over 200 acres of research and technology and, industrial-type development as well. So this is just our general concept plan. Like I said, the staff has been great to work with. We've really enjoyed the process. Just to give you some idea, next slide, this is, we've done some marketing, and one thing that Hines does very well is, we view ourselves as a developer. We want to differentiate. There's a lot of homes, right? And in order to really stand out and bring that Hines quality seal, stamp that on a project, we go out and we do best-in-class marketing, best-in-class amenities, and really kind of build a brand. And we think that this is hugely important, being on the front door on the western edge of Terrell. And so just to give you an idea, just a little flavor, these are some pictures and renderings from houses that we're currently developing in Royce City. It's one of our recent projects. It's called Creekside.
If you guys ever find yourself on Highway 66 up there, you can go through it. It's really a fantastic development and has been hugely successful. This is just one of many. I can show you many more examples, or we can talk after. But it's just to give you a flavor of the sort of development that we'll be bringing to the city of Terrell. Like I said earlier, we're very amenity-led. One thing that we always do is we build our amenity centers up front, both in terms of, where they are in the community so that it's easy to see from the entrance, but then also in the timing standpoint. And then these are just some renderings of representative amenity centers that we've been looking at with our landscape architect and sort of the inspiration of what we're going to be building here. And then another huge component on the next slide is parks, right? We are going to be building, it's I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's well over 100 acres of parkland and trails. We found that really people want to interface with the outdoors, especially in the last 2 years. That's become even more important, and we're committed to doing innovative things in order to build as many trails and to have really best-in-class outdoor amenities as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Angela to go over some of the zoning.
Thank you, Dustin. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Angela Hunt. I'm the Zoning and Land Use Attorney for Hines. Just wanted to talk with you a little bit about the 3 sub-districts that we're proposing. First is our residential sub-district. Our residential sub-district standards are really based on what we found successful in our Creekside project in Royce City. And you'll see there's a lot of similarity with our base of R75 zoning here in Terrell. There are some differentiations, and that is based on market response and what we found successful in other cities. If we can go to the next slide. These are just, gives you some sense of the architectural features that are really the focus of Hines in this development. Things like a minimum roof pitch, non-monotony restrictions, so we ensure that there is a lot of variability in the design of the homes. We also want to ensure that there are special design elements in each and every house within the sub-district. This would include porches, bay windows, dormers, different accent materials and masonry, ornamental windows, driveways with enhanced pavement, increased roof pitch, copper awnings, garage doors with different enhancements. Next slide, please. We also, towards the south part of the project on Highway 80, have a retail sub-district. This is based on Terrell standards for the retail sub-district, but we also incorporated some of the standards from the Highway Corridor District. And those standards include architectural design standards, internal drives with pedestrian buffer zones to ensure that we have walkability within our retail sub-district, enhanced landscaping, again, internal sidewalks, a setback from Highway 80, and then limits on parking right off of 80 to ensure that we have an attractive design from there. With the research and technology sub-district, again, that'll be a more industrial sub-district that'll bring jobs. We base that on your RT district. You can see that for the most part, we don't have significant changes. There are some changes, again, that were market-driven. And if we can go to the next slide. We also focused on ensuring that we have landscaping, a very attractive research and technology sub-district with setbacks, screening from residential. And we're here to take any questions. We have our engineer as well as our land use planner here. We really do appreciate this opportunity to talk with you and give you this preview. Thank you.
Any questions for them? We don't have any questions. I think that we will move on, and thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Now that 8.1 is completed, we didn't need an action on that. We will go back to 6.1. And please forgive us for moving around the agenda as we have tonight. We've just had a lot of things to cover and a lot of people to accommodate, and we appreciate everyone's patience. 6.1, we're going to conduct a public hearing regarding the following proposed amendments to the Terrell City Code of Ordinances as follows. Chapter 4, Building Regulations, Section 4.5, Electrical Code. Chapter 10, Subdivisions, Article 3, Subdivision Design Standards. Section 3.8, Utility Services not provided by the City of Terrell.
I'll pretend to be Charles Fenner for a minute.
Okay, yes.
Which one are
please-
we on?
Please,
Okay,
Yes,
so
number
what we're
6.
doing here on this one is that we took a look at a couple of other cities and we tried to determine what are they doing to help make sure that we have fiber for internet connection for houses. And what we noticed was, and I'll credit John Godwin with doing some research on this, and then we have a IT firm that we work with as a third party, which is called True North. And what they do and have done for us is to take a look at what language could we put into our standards so that when somebody comes forward and says, hey, I'm going to construction plat a new neighborhood, well, shouldn't part of the engineering of that in the modern world be, how are you getting internet to that house? And may it never be that we would build any of these big residential projects without saying, hey, show me that. And so this language is designed to incorporate that. It shows up in the building regulations. It shows up in the subdivision section of it. And I can tell you that the language we used meant that if I were in school, I would get in trouble for cheating off my neighbor. I copied, or we copied City Salina, and they've won some awards for having the best version of this in the Metroplex. So that's what it's all about.
Okay.
So you get up, I just take it. You know what? It's here all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Sims?
Yes, 2 questions. I see here that you got a minimum of 1 gig. Where did that number come from? Is that the recommended?
You know, it was really just copying Salina, and the idea there is when you've got a gig, you're going to have enough up and down speed to be able to handle, like I'm buffering a couple of movies at the same time. Those of you who know that I've got 7 kids would know that multiple kids doing a class at the same time need some pretty hefty bandwidth. And frankly, I think you got to be able to do like 3 Zoom calls at the same time in order to have good, you know, that's like a proof of capacity, right? Can one kid be watching ESPN on his phone and the other kid's on a Zoom thing with the teacher, and then, you know, one of the adults is also working on some project for work? Well, you know, that's modern world, so you got to have a pretty high number, and that's where we try to get a big number, so.
And last question, with this language, is the developer incurring the cost?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
thank you.
okay.
Okay, if there are no more questions, I will call us into the public meeting.
That would just be part of the
Okay, are we ready for the public hearing? Okay, if anyone would like to come and speak during the public hearing in regards to 6.1, in favor of or against, you may come forward. Okay, we don't have anyone. No comments, so I will close the public hearing. We'll move on to 6.2, is a zone change, 21-05. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I went right past it. Excuse me, I've been everywhere. We do need, do I have a motion for 6.1?
Offer a motion that we approve the code changes, Chapter 4 and Chapter 10 of the city code.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second for that? Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. Now, we're going to 6.2. Zone change, 21-05. We're going to conduct another public hearing to discuss and consider a request for an amendment to a plan development ordinance 2874 to allow the use of a 35-foot tall digital billboard that is 47 feet long by 13.4 feet high on property currently zoned as planned development highway corridor. The requested amendment will replace the current sign regulations, allowing a single multi-tenant monument with 2 full masonry pillars. The property is 9.29 acres, Lot 3, Block 1, Randall No Addition, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is generally located on the northeast corner of Highway 80 and State Highway 205, also known as 100 State Highway 205, Terrell, Texas. Zone change 21-05, passed July 2021, and that was ordinance 2874.
All right, Madam Chair, that was a lot of stuff to read, so you pretty much got it all right there. So you are looking, I'll simplify this a little bit. Back in 2021, in July, this property was zoned as a PD. It was the old Randall No property there where Tractor Supply is. The applicant had purchased that building to put a beverage depot in there in the corner. And as you may remember, in that PD, there was going to be a major anchor in the middle there and between there and Tractor Supply. Also part of that PD were the things that we usually have as standards, so any landscaping or circulation or any building additions, elevations, and so forth, and signs are all set up in the PD. We can place that all in the ordinance. So here's our plan development. Original ordinance had a single multi-tenant monument sign with two full masonry pillars. And you have Exhibit E, you can show, see basically it was similar to that right there. Okay? So the plan development contains this following language. It's, I'm going to read through it, maybe skip some of the its and the is, but the only sign allowable in the district shall be a single multi-tenant sign centrally located close to the roadway frontage. No other signs are allowed. The maximum height is 35 feet. Maximum width shall be 12 feet. Only a monument sign or modified monument sign with 2 full masonry pillars as shown on the exhibit shall be allowable, excluding any single positions on the multi-tenant sign consistent with Exhibit B, so it has to be consistent and work through that. Any messages or signage of any type related to alcohol sales or advertising a business with alcohol sales shall be confined to the actual front door customer entrance. So there would be no liquor or advertising on that sign. No facade or building signage of any type at any time shall be allowed in the rear of the building, northeast of the building, and southeast. So basically nothing to show that there was liquor. It was a beer, the liquor store. So then we move into what our sign code basically says for highway corridor signs. Okay, this is what our highway corridor says, not the PD. It says signs may be located within such a manner to create a safety, as to create a safety hazard, may not be located as to create a safety hazard, obscure, or otherwise interfere with effectiveness of official traffic sign, signal, or device, obstruct or interfere with the driver's view of approaching, merging, or intersecting traffic, or be likely to cause a driver to be unduly distracted in any way. That's in our sign ordinance. That's for a highway sign. It speaks of your in this case, you could be looking railroad crossing, street lights, or the lights all there, the oncoming traffic, the right turn lanes, so forth. And 6N, a digital billboard. No portion of a digital billboard may be located within 250 feet of a linear property line of a parcel within a residential land use designation or residential use that fronts on the same street and within the same, in the side of the billboard face. So what we did at this point was we wanted to make sure this is a growing area, this is a redevelopable area. Things are gonna change around here, and we're gonna see that. So we made sure, just like on several of the other cases, that we have to deal with things that may be a distraction or may cause some problems in the future. We've moved this on to our PTO, our engineering group that does our traffic study stuff and looks at things such as this. Adrian Murphy, he reviewed the proposed sign. His concerns, he had concerns with the proposed location, size, and electronic functionality. The conclusion stated that the proposed location, size, and electronic display of the beverage depot electronic billboard sign near merging traffic from Westmore, US Highway 80 to State Highway 205, followed by an intermediate downstream driveway intersection and traffic control signal for commercial driveways along State Highway 205 could create unnecessary distractions for drivers along State Highway 205 and Westmore, US 80. Westbound traffic using the right turn lane to continue north on State Highway 205, increasing the potential for side swipes and rear-end vehicle crashes. Alternate location for the proposed billboard sign or size shall be considered so as to not distract from any type of driver safety. Basically, so we saw that that doesn't meet any of those guidelines or any doesn't satisfy the traffic engineer whatsoever in that case. And so we feel that in the original PD, we had a good opportunity for the monument sign, that 35-foot sign. The maximum height with the two pillars were the right way to go then, and we also feel that that is, of course, the right way to go now, and and not make any changes. So, sure.
I'm sorry, I wanted to hang out for this to just add a little note. First off, I want to say thank you to Mr. Alfatani. He's been a wonderful partner for us. He's the one who's been the leader of this charge. I feel bad that we ended up in this position because I think it would have been nice to have an opportunity here. As we really started going through the engineering side of it, it just didn't work out. The other thing that we found out also is that, FM 148 is one of our potential quiet zone locations. And as I talked this through with our quiet zone consultants, what we really felt like was that as we pursue quiet zone there, we would be likely to lose our quiet zone if there are dynamic message signs. So remember what's happening at a quiet zone, right? You got a railroad crossing that right now you notice because the train sounds a horn. When we move forward on our quiet zone proposal, you're really relying on the flashing lights to tell you that that train is coming. And so the general opinion out of Federal Railroad Administration has been, don't put these kind of signs in visual view of your railroad crossings because it's contradictory to trying to get people to pay attention in a quiet zone location. Since we know our neighbors to the west just lost their quiet zone by violating the least little detail of a quiet zone program, we really are just going to have to go back to our ordinance and give a more straightforward statement that you just can't do these signs within a certain distance of a railroad crossing. And I apologize, we didn't have that thought through. I think you've gone to some effort there, and we apologize for that. But they made a fair shot at a good idea. It just works out with proximity to the railroad tracks not to be the best idea. And that's where that recommendation came back from our engineering team. So.
I have a question. Could the sign be placed there if it didn't have the flashing?
They have rights under their existing PD to a sign of a certain size and a certain height and a certain type. And so our recommendation was, let's stay with that. If Mr. Alfatani wanted to come forward and say, hey, since I'm not able to do a dynamic message sign with the electronic change, he could certainly come forward to you and say, hey, I'd still like an amendment, and maybe I want it to be slightly higher, slightly taller, whatever it might be. He'll have rights to do that, and your action today to deny wouldn't be prohibiting him from coming back and resizing that sign. So that would just be an option of the P&Z to adjust that size in the future if you wanted to, and if you wanted to pursue that option. So.
we are ready for the public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. I will open the public hearing, and if we have anyone that would like to come and state your name at the microphone and make comments, you have 3 minutes to make comments in favor.
Good evening, council members. John Aflatuni. I'm the representative for the owners at 100 Highway 205. We really have embarked a fantastic plan to really enhance the property. We feel that this property sits in a cornerstone of exactly where city of Terrell is, and sitting right on Highway 205 and Highway 80. And we were planning to have the first electronic billboard. We have worked with City of Frisco, City of Dallas, but about 7 cities on replacing these billboards. And we even have them, in Dallas, they have them on freeways, and they have conducted a study and really doesn't distract to the extent that I know at some point we had it in DFW airport, and then they took it down. But we feel that these billboards really would benefit not only the tenants there, but we can have also any kind of advertisement. It's not for the tenants there, but for the city or any events that take place. I think the initial signage that we had, the monument sign, was certainly a fantastic design and a good sign, but this one certainly surpasses that. And, it cost us about $600,000, but we're willing to do that just to enhance the property and really bring a lot of business to the city and to the center and all that. So I hope that the board members consider that and hopefully approve that for us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else would like to speak with the public hearing open? Okay, no one else is coming forward, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any discussion or questions, or do I hear a motion?
I'd just like to say that the, on the sign, it's, where the location is right now, I think because of the traffic, I know we have a light right down the street and then another light. I can see it being a huge distraction. Especially when, right now that we have that curve right there, you're looking at trying to get onto the highway, and then you got a quick, I've been there before, and it just backs up so much, and then you're coming from that curve, going into the intersection there. I think it wouldn't behoove us to move forward with this. So I'd like to make a motion to deny this at this time, and just go with the recommending with the original approval that was approved with the original PD.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay, and that motion carries. Okay, moving on to 7.1. 2. Yes, we already did 7.1. Thank you. 7.2. That is a construction plat, 22-07. We're going to discuss and consider a construction plat for Terrell Medical Addition, Lot 1, 2, 3, and 4, Block A, being 5.751 acres out of the Hale Survey, abstract number 443, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located on the southeast corner of State Highway 34 and British Flying School Boulevard. And Mr. Finner is going to give us a staff report.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Chairwoman, Commissioners, this is, I think we may have talked about this before. We've been working with this property owner for some time now. This is the property that is right behind Legacy ag credit there and the school, so it's just north of the site, very good. And British, down here, British Flying School and north, I guess southeast property section there. Between these two property lines at the Legacy, if you could point to those, the Legacy and this other vacant property, we had a 24-foot access, public access easement go through that property. When we did that, so we would have access to the back side of the property, because originally we were gonna have a right-of-way go through Tom Norton's property just north of the school and be dedicated to the east to connect into a road that would come off the British Flying School Boulevard, which would be part of our thoroughfare plan that we would have. And we worked out something a little different where the actual Legacy Ag Credit would take their parcel and divide it into two, so we could maybe get another maybe a small little drive-through restaurant there to serve the school and so forth. So that's where we're at with that. So that will be the main access, is coming in off the road. If you look at right there, the highlighted one, okay? So on this plat, there is no, we have no allowances for driveways off British Flying School Road. So only roads, and that only the streets that are on our plan, and so we'll have to work through with TxDOT to get the road approved, which we have the reserved. If you look to the far right of this plat, over in the, right here, that's gonna be a reserved right-of-way, that will be left to be built as a road connecting into the rest of the subdivision. And then the east side of that development, which was at one point zoned apartments, if you remember, quite some time ago, probably about 3 years ago, Tom Norton was going to sell that off to apartment complex. So that's why that road's right there. I wanted to show you a little bit about that. So basically what's gonna happen here with this property is that, this yellow will come off 34, and they're working on getting a median cut off 34 with TxDOT, was supposedly approved, so we're working through that. But it'll come off 34, right where that blank is, right between that Legacy Ag Credit building. It'll come back here to this property, and the way it'll be subdivided is into these lots, lot 1 up northwest, lot 2 down here, and then lot 3 backing up, and 4 backing up to British Flying School. We like this. We think it's a great project to fit in to where we need to be going with the doctors and the specialists. And this applicant here has actually some connections with some other doctors and so forth. So what we're going to be doing is working with them to get this first area final platted, which what they'll have to do is actually build a bridge during this phase, because there's floodplain in that area. So if you look over, do we have that in there too? I can't remember. Show the bridge piece. Okay, just the yellow piece. Well, that's okay. So anyway, what we'll do is they'll have lot 1 up here being accessed, and what you see in that pink is a public access and utility easement illustrated. And it stops at that pink area, and then it just continues in that turquoise blue area as a utility easement, because we don't want to have any discrepancy in the plat or any thought process that would be another road or a driveway coming off of British Flying School. So we stopped it there, but that access has to be there because that's how lot 1 is going to be accessed. They're going to be accessed off the public access easement and develop their first building there. And then they'll have access to building 2 down there, and lot 2, and so they can build a building there too, and of course 3 and 4. So with all that said, plat looks good. The engineering has been reviewed. It looks good. The numbers, we're just trying to get some numbers together on the bridge and how much that's going to cost, because we would possibly be participating in that bridge through a developer's agreement with some exchanges of additional buffering and berming along British Flying School Road and the corner of that property and some other things. with them. So we're gonna be working on that through, staff level here and on to council. Lots will be big enough for, like I said, the 4 different buildings. And, from this point on, at this point, when we work out our agreement from here on out, they'll get together, we'll start working on their public improvements to build those. And they'll be inspected and approved by the city engineer. And they'll submit a final plat for approval. And that's I think the process they're going, because they're gonna probably end up putting up some form of letter of credit, too, which won't be too much because it's only gonna be basically for the portion that they build up front. So we'll work through that with them on a developer's agreement. So with all that said, we've been working with them on and off for about a year now, and we've come to this point to where we had a good design for them, and they got the most out of the property. It's just building that bridge to cross. And obviously, that's a big cost. It'd be easier if they could just have driveways off British Flying School, but they can't. So we do recommend approval of this plat. We've gotten the reserve right away. We'll also put that in the developer's agreement to make sure that that's done when we need it. So it'll be dedicated, so we won't have to actually go purchase that too. So staff recommends approval.
Okay. Do we have any discussion or any questions for Mr. Finner? Or do I hear a motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve Construction Plat Terrell Medical Addition, Lot 1, 2, 3, and 4, Block A being 5.751 acres at CP 22-07.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign, and the motion carries. Okay, now moving on to 7.3. We're gonna discuss and consider, construction plat for Metro East Edition Lot 3A, Block B, being 20.733 acres, being a replat of part of Lot 3, Block B, out of the John C. Hale Survey, abstract number 202, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. This property is located at the southeast corner of Timtex Boulevard in the Mike Cronin Business Park, and that was CP 22-08. Okay, Mr. Finner?
Madam Chairwoman and P and Z Commissioners, I think it would just be easy if we just took these next items and denied them. That'd be the easiest thing to do and just get us moving on to the next item. So, are they giving me the eye? So what you got? No, not at all. I just thought since they're the last 2 people, they've worked hard and fast on this. The applicant submitted this construction plat for Metro East Edition for Lot 3A and 3B, and you can see it right there. It's as clear as can be on these little screens. The same thing goes for this. They will be building public infrastructure. They'll have some public infrastructure that has to be built. And why you have a construction plat and a final plat here is because we need to get this finalized and recorded. And we do have engineering estimates that have been approved by the city engineer, and we do have a letter of credit. And so before you, we have these 2 plats, the construction plat and the final plat, and you can take separate action on them, but everything is good. And so I'm just gonna tell you, we recommend got my mindset here. We recommend approval on the construction plat of Metro East Edition. And don't get stuck, yeah. So, anyhow, everything has been done just right on this, and like I said, we've got what we needed, so. But we'll talk about that as far as, the letter of credit is required for the next plat, okay? But we do approve the construction plat. Any questions?
Okay, if there's no questions, do we have any discussion or a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the construction plat for the Metro Addition Lot A, Block B, being that of the 20.733 acres.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay, and motion carries. Moving on to 7.4 is Final Plat 22-10. Discuss and consider a final plat of Metro East Edition Lot 3A, Block B, being 20.733 acres, being a replat and Part 3 of Lot 3, Block B, out of the John C. Hale Abstract 202, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located at the southeast corner of Timtex Boulevard in Mount Cronin. Is that just like the other one? Okay. Final plat, okay.
So I always like to go through the process, and I don't want it, I try to make these staff reports real concise, real down to the point, so you can always remember this kind of the same thing over and over, and you remember the process. So you remember we approve the construction plat at a meeting, and it's the overall property, and that construction plat has engineering plans that go to engineering too. And then the engineering, when they approve those engineering plans, the civil plans, we bring forth the construction plat to the P&Z and council. And then it's approved, okay? Once it's approved, then normally there's fire lanes, or there's water, or there's something that has to be built. Those things are built, okay? And then before you get a final plat, before the property's sold. And if that doesn't happen, and if they need to have the process go through quick and sell the property and exchange it so somebody can have it on their books and get ready to do what they need to do, then we'll put up a letter of credit or surety bond, because we'll have them do engineering estimates of all those public improvements, and those will be approved by the engineer. And once those are approved, then we can just say, okay, well, we have this engineering estimate, and then it's approved, and then they submit a bond for $1.1 million based on those public improvements along with this final plat. And so that means everything you just saw was basically the same thing, but now we're gonna go ahead and approve this final plat so they can go down and record that final plat or exchange or sell this property to somebody else. So we have the letter of surety in hand, okay? And once those site improvement, those infrastructure is built, they'll just contact us. Our engineering department will be out there looking at them and from time to time. And once those are complete and signed off on, we just take this and tear it up. And then there's usually, for any public improvements, a 2-year maintenance bond for what they did. So that's why we go through this process, okay? So with all that said, we do recommend approval. We do have this sealed in hand, and we're ready to go with these guys. So we recommend approval of the final plat.
Any discussion or questions for Mr. Finner or a motion?
I'll make a motion for the approval of the final plat for Metro East Edition, Lot 3A, Block B, being 20.733 acres, FP 22-10.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay, and the motion carries. Okay, moving on to 7.5 is a final plat, 22-11. Discuss and consider a final replat of the Virginia Heights Edition Lot 21R, 22R, Block 400, being .33 acres, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located at the southwest corner of State Highway 34 and Greenwood Street. Mr. Finner?
Chairwoman, members, this is a final replat of Lot 21R and 22R. This property is in the Virginia Heights Edition. It's along State Highway 34 in Greenwood. Basically, what you have here is the plat is moving so there's already two lots, and since one's on the corner, it makes it tough because of the side yard setback, and they're already in their current state of width. You know, they already have been platted. And so what they're wanting to do is move the lot, change the lot line in between, and move that lot over to the left, to the west, northwest, so they can make the lot 22R, which is right on State Highway 34 in Greenwood, a little wider, because they don't have much room to work with. And what it would come out to be would be 22R would be, we'll have a 49-foot lot width by 150-foot depth, so it's 7,400 square foot in area. And then lot 21, which is to the northwest, will have 44-foot lot width and 149 feet and be 7,000 square foot in area. So again, remember, this is already a platted lot, and they're doing what I would do if I own these two, is try to get more lot width on the corner because they're gonna have a bigger setback. We did do a developer's agreement. They did go through that process and instead of a variance, and so we went through a developer's agreement with the city and with the city council. And as I told y'all before, we have doing these more simple agreements, these developers agreements, because we're able to exchange simple things. And there's really no money exchange in these agreements. Basically, it says you may have this lot width, or you may have this square footage as somewhat of a variance, and this is what you build in exchange. So you build, we may also, you know, we have a 2,000 square foot minimum, so we may let them build an 1,800 square foot minimum, 100% brick and stone. They plant a couple of berms, big shade tree out in the front, and we just say, hey, that's an exchange. On this one, since they're on the corner, we would let them have less of a setback on State Highway 34, but we'll have them build a wrought iron cedar type fence with columns, and they'll have some landscaping in between, so they'll make sure we see that difference, because we are giving them that variance too. So the council did pass this developers agreement. It wasn't creating two new lots. Again, it was very simple. It was just moving the lots around. So a lot of times in these situations, move that lot around, they can come through this replat process, or they can go through a variance process. And when you go through the variance process through the Zoning Board of Adjustment, you know, they're quasi-judicial board, and I've said that over before, is once they make a decision, it's over. And the way they do this, because they're gonna have to come through a replat process anyways, because they're moving a line. But when they go through the developer's agreement, we both have some exchanges, and we start working through them. And Miss O'Mara just, you know, she's got these great negotiating powers to have them do some things that we need done. You know, we get, which we might not get. Again, and remember, we have a 2,000 square foot minimum. Sometimes that just doesn't fit in the neighborhood, but we can get a brick and stone home, or we can get 80% of it, or we can get some extra plantings and create some good value in the neighborhood and create some affordable housing as much as we can. So we've got a ton of these, ton of infill development that we had been struggling and fighting for a long time to do. And I believe we're probably, we're probably well into close to 20 million of infill development for this past year. So infill development was crazy. Now we have 300 new house permits out, so that's gonna even be crazy this year. So we're seeing a lot happen, but some of these neighborhoods are really being picked up, and for just a little extra work and being creative, I think it's a partnership that it works out for everybody. So we recommend approval. I know I probably said too much. I just like for you guys to know as much of that little process as you can, so.
Anyone have any questions or any more discussion? Do we hear a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve the approval of the final plat of the Virginia Heights Addition, Lot 21R and 22R, Block 400, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas.
Okay, and do I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, say same sign. Okay, and the motion carries. On to 7.6, which is a final plat, 22-12. Discuss and consider a final plat for the Phagan Addition, Lot 19R, Block 4, being 0.197 acres, being a replat of Lot 18 and 19, Block 4, out of the J.C. Hale Survey, abstract number 202, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. This property is located at 1209 South Rockwall. Mr.
Thank you,
Kenner.
Madam Chairwoman and members. Again, this was done through a developer's agreement. And won't go through all the process again, but they could have gone and done a variance. Here's the situation on this. They were platted 25-foot lots, and as you know, we have a ton of 25-foot. Never mind. I always have to screw up at least once at a meeting. This is the one that they did go through ZBA, and so the zoning board of adjustment did grant them the variances. You have to understand, what do we have working right now, 11 or 12? Or I may say maybe 150, that's why I can't remember. But no, this is, they do get confusing. This one had two 25-foot lots. As you know, our standards in SF6 are 65-foot width, or 7.5, they're 75-foot. The difference here is they're platted lots. So by law, we really need to let them build on those lots, but it's almost impossible because they can't meet the setbacks. And so what we tell them, look, these lots were created prior to our subdivision ordinance, so you have the right, that's a hardship, to go before the zoning board of adjustment. Again, now we offer anybody and everybody the opportunity to go through the ZBA, through the developer's agreement process too. This was a real simple one because they're taking two 25-foot lots, and all they're doing is wiping out a line and saying, hey, I'm taking two lots, making one lot, but it's only 50 foot. Is that okay? ZBA says, of course it's okay. And so they get approved. And so it becomes a 50 by 138. Its lot depth is 6,900 square foot, and location on 1209 Rockwall, like you said, South Rockwall. And basically they just go through the final plat process, and here you are, here it is in front of you. So the two lots became one. There's no real technical issues, no issues that we have to deal with on this, and so we recommend approval.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
Move a motion that we approve final plat for Lot 19R, Block 4, FP 22-12.
Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay, that carries as well.
Thank y'all for tonight. I'm glad y'all got to go back
Y'all
and
for
listen.
bearing with me for all the number changes.
You did very well. Very well. You did better than I did, because I made 2 or 3 mistakes up here, so, you know, I have to say, you did good.
We are adjourned.
Yeah, see, and I'm getting paid too. I guess y'all can go and, I guess y'all